Hello and welcome to our first Duels Origins deck. While everyone is busy unlocking all the cards, I've already made a few deck lists that I'm working towards and I'll feature as soon as I've unlocked all the cards for them. And one of them is the green-white Renown deck, which is an aggressive creature deck featuring a lot of creatures with the Renown mechanic from Magic Origins. And starting at the 1-drops we have Anointer of Champions, which can tap to give an attacking creature +1/+1 until end of turn. This is very useful as it's sort of a combat trick on top of a creature, which helps your Renown creatures get through for damage and trigger the Renown to get a +1/+1 counter on them, as we'll see in just a bit. So a very important creature in the deck, and I'm happy to have all three of them. And then we have Elite Vanguard, just an aggressive 2/1 for 1 mana. Nothing special here, but we do want to be an aggressive deck and apply the pressure as early as possible, force the opponent to use removal spells on our early creatures so our 2-drops and 3-drops survive. So Elite Vanguard fills that role nicely, and it also helps trigger our next card, which is Kithion, Hero of Aggros, and this is a pretty powerful 1-drop here, a 2/1 for 1 mana, and you can even make him indestructible by paying 3. And if you attacked with 3 or more creatures, then you get to transform him into the Planeswalker side, which is Gideon Battleforged, a very powerful Planeswalker that can pretty much attack as a 4/4 the following turn. So a nice Planeswalker here for just 1 mana, and pretty easy to trigger him in a very aggressive deck like this one that features a lot of 1-drops. Next up is Sunblade Elf, which is a 1/1 for single green, but if you control a plains, which is very likely in this deck, he'll get +1/+1, so it's basically a 2/2 for 1, and then on top of that, for 5 mana you can give all creatures you control +1/+1 until end of turn. Also helps pump your Renowned creatures yet again to get them through for damage. Then our 2-drops, we have Consul's Lieutenant. For double white we get a 2/1 first striker with Renown 1. So if he deals combat damage to a player, he gets a +1/+1 counter and becomes Renowned. And when Consul's Lieutenant attacks, if it's Renowned, other attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So this is very important to get this one Renowned, so everyone gets the bonus. And you can keep getting other creatures Renowned as well. So this is why the Anointer of Champions is so important, and why Sunblade Elf in the late game can be very useful to get your Renowned creatures through. Next up is another double white 2-drop, and that's Knight of the White Orchid, a 2/2 first striker that says when he enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you get to search your library for a plains card and put it onto the battlefield untapped and shuffle your library. So a very powerful card, especially when on the draw, as you can simply play him turn 3 before playing your land drop to get that extra land, and then simply play your land for the turn, and you will have 4 lands in play on turn 3, which puts you ahead of your opponent, as well as having a 2/2 first striker in play, which is not bad. Next up is Taupen Freeblade, 1 and a white for a 2/2 vigilance creature with Renown 1. So pretty simple, if this creature connects, you'll have a 3/3 vigilance creature, which is very powerful for just 2 mana. Our final 2-drop here is Undercity Troll, 1 and a green for a 2/2 with Renown 1. And for 2 and a green you get to regenerate Undercity Troll, so a pretty decent ability here on a 3/3 if he connects. Our first 3-drop is Vryn Wingmare, a 2/1 flyer for 3 mana, and he says non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast, which is not a problem in this deck since we barely have any non-creature spells, so this will probably hurt the opponent more than it hurts us, as it will delay removal spells by a turn, and possibly even a sweeper for a turn, which can be very important. Next up is Citadel Castelln, 1 a green and a white for a 2/3 vigilance Renown 2. So if this creature deals combat damage to the opponent, she gets 2 +1/+1 counters, making her a 4/5 vigilance for just 3 mana, which is just ridiculous. So another reason why Anointer of Champions is so important in this deck, as she helps get the Castelln through and is a lot cheaper than playing combat tricks. Our final 3-drop is Valeron Wardens, a 1/3 with Renown 2, and whenever a creature you control becomes Renowned, you can draw a card, which is obviously very powerful in a deck full of Renown creatures, so this gives us some card advantage in the late game. Our first 4-drop is Scythian's Irregulars, a 4/3 with Renown 1, and more importantly, for double white, you get to tap target creature, which is very important in the Renown deck as it helps your creatures connect. Next up is our only real removal spell in the deck, which is Suppression Bonds, 4 mana, and enchanted creature can't attack, block, and its activated abilities can't be activated, so this is just an overcosted arrest, but the removal is not great in Duels Origins, so Suppression Bonds will have to do. Our final 4-drop is Archangel of Tides, which might be pretty difficult to cast with triple white in its casting cost, so we can't really expect to play this on curve all the time, but with cards like Knight of the White Orchid we do get to fetch an additional planes, which might help, and even if this comes down on turn 5 or 6, it's still a very powerful creature, as it's a 3/5 flyer, and whenever an opponent's creature tries to block, the opponent has to pay 1 colorless for each creature that's blocking, and the same goes for attacking creatures as well, so this puts a lot of strain on the opponent's mana as it becomes very difficult to block our creatures, which works very well with all the Renown creatures we have. And then our final creature here is Patron of the Valiant for 5 mana. We get a 4/4 flyer, and when he enters the battlefield we can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control that already has a +1/+1 counter on it. So this basically works like an Anthem effect for all our renowned creatures, has an immediate effect on the battlefield, and we still get a 4/4 flyer for our troubles. So I think this is a very decent curve topper in the Renown deck, and we'll see if he performs when we finally get to play with him. And then for our mana base we get to play with 4 Selesnya Guildgate, 2 Sunpetal Grove, and then 7 forests and 11 plains, since white is our main color for all those double white 2-drops, and of course for the Archangel. Alright, that'll do it for our first Duels Origins deck. I want to thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.